Hello, it's John. Literally just now, within this past minute or so, just finished this. Great little find. I got it at a half price. It was $1 wrapped in plastic. And I had already bought some other stuff. Went in there looking for one or two things, found two or three other things. Probably didn't need, but I got anyway. Um, Saw this and a couple other ones for like $1, went back in, bought it again. Really glad I did. Um, I've only read a couple Ray Bradbury books, Fahrenheit 451 being one, Dandelion Wine being the other. So I was batting about 500 or 50% in terms of that because I did not like Dandelion Wine, but Fahrenheit 451 was excellent. This is Ray Bradbury. It had Halloween in the title. How bad could it be? Turns out it's really freaking good. Um, the references to a Marley knocker on the Mr. Mound Shroud's mansion give you a clue to what it's about. It's basically a Halloween Christmas carol. So, there's this one kid, Pipkin, who's sort of like, everyone loves him sort of thing. And there's these other 8 other friends of these little boys. So it's kind of got that Stand By Me 80s group of kids coming together for a purpose, kind of, Goonies and all that other stuff sort of thing um, with it. So it's kind of got that feel to it. It's like, what, 72, I think this came out? 72, 72, 72, 72. I looked at it earlier and I forgot. Yeah, 72. So it kind of predates a lot of that, like a decade or so, or anything, but it kind of has that feeling in with that too. And this Mr. Moundshroud kind of, the one kid that everyone likes, that Pipkin is seems really sick and can't really join them. And he tells them to go over to this one mansion thing, try to go there, I'll meet you there. It's over this ravine. It's this creepy house. There's a Marley knocker. They knock on it, and no one answers. And they go, and the stuff kind of freaks them out. Shades flying up, and they go around. They see this big freaking tree with all these basically jack-o'-lanterns lit on it. And they go, oh, it's the Halloween tree. So then this Mr. Moundshroud comes out, who's very sort of gaunt and creepy looking and everything. He's like, yeah, Halloween tree. That's it. And they're waiting for their friend, and their friend's trying to, that Pipkin's coming across this ravine going and gets like swooped up, basically. So they proceed to go through these like 5 or 6 or 7 different sort of eras, from a caveman era, ancient Egyptian era, Druid, Greek Roman, medieval. They hit Notre Dame. They hit El Dia de los Muertos and everything like that. And each of the 8 kids are kind of dressed up like they all have these individual costumes, and the costumes end up um, corresponding to the different ages that they go to, kind of thing. And they're talking about basically how what we have as Halloween is this contiguous worship kind of thing of, yeah, the days are getting shorter, days are getting colder. People are kind of afraid. I mean, it almost, one of the things that kind of is like a little bit of an attractor, a little bit of a bother for it. And it's Ray Bradbury, so, and it's 72, where some things of this wasn't around yet. But it is a little materialistic in the, oh well, it's people who are afraid of the dark, people who are afraid of death, and that's kind of it a little bit. They don't really talk about, they bring it. He brings in, some of the different um beliefs and practices of some of the things in a sort of cursory sort of way, but also in a very, for kind of a fantasy book and that kind of Christmas carol-y kind of thing. It is almost kind of flat material of, okay, well, people just sort of believe this, and this is where it came from, and all this other stuff, but it still has a little supernatural kind of bent to it as well, uh, with it. so and in each of the realms they kind of see something with their friend. Like Pip is in a is a mummy in a sarcophagus in one, um, or is like a gargoyle when they get to Notre Dame, and is in these different sort of forms as they go on through it, and they learn a little bit about like these kind of cultures and some of the beliefs with it, and then they finally kind of have to, you know, spoiler, uh, Mr. Moundshroud, who's is basically kind of probably death, makes them. It was like, all right, well, if you want to save your friend, you kind of have to. There's like a sacrifice thing for that, and they find out later on that he was sick and an appendix problem, and he's not if he's going to be okay. But they all had to kind of give up this year of their life at the end of their life, like way at the end. And it was like, you think about it, you don't know what it means now because you're like 11 or 12. You have no concept of this. But later on, that extra year might be something you really kind of cherish. But they end up doing it anyway, so it still kind of has a. Oh, I am very sorry, I forgot to hit vibrates on that. Sorry. Um. So again, but it still has that again that sort of almost stand by me it kind of thing where they're willing to kind of make that sacrifice for their friend, sort of thing. Anyway, it did kind of remind me again. It's like 30 years older than it, but it did kind of remind me of Neil Gaiman's Graveyard Book. At first, I was thinking a little bit of Coraline, but it's way more Graveyard Book than Coraline. Again, separated by 30 years, but I had read those other ones first. I had seen the title of this, but it didn't really click to me. Um, I didn't know what it would be about or anything like that, obviously, till actually reading it. Yeah, again, a couple of the things that kind of bothered me, the thing with like, oh, well, witches, the word witch comes from wit, and therefore, witches were really just people who were kind of smarter than everybody else, and then that kind of bugged people and everything. So that kind of whitewashed a whole lot of stuff in with that, which kind of bugged me a little bit. And then the whole idea of the Sphinx being from basically the fourth dynasty, and the pyramid is kind of tomb sort of thing. Again, it's a 72. It's before John Anthony West came out with Serpent in the Sky, which was in late 70s. Robert Bauval didn't come up with the Orion correlation theory until I think the 80s. It was the early 90s before Graham Hancock wrote Fingerprints of the Gods, and John Anthony West and Robert Schoch did the whole thing with the water weathering with the Sphinx and all that. So a lot of that stuff that I kind of get into now wasn't around then. I think Chariots of the Gods was already out by a year or two by then. Um, but again, that's me looking at it with my perspective now, looking at something 45 years ago, and I can't make that expectation that would be something that would carry back that way. You can't do that. Um, but yeah, so I mean, a couple little. I mean, it's not perfect because it has those couple little things that kind of bug me a little bit. Where even though it is kind of supernatural, and you do kind of have an anthropomorphized idea of kind of death and psychopomp practice with it, it is sort of like, oh well, witches were just smart people, and this is just sort of what people believed. Even though you do kind of have that anthropomorphized death, and you're kind of talking about a little bit of afterlife stuff and everything, it still kind of feels a little materialistically in with it. Other than that, though, I mean, it's if you like, yeah, if you kind of like that whole Christmas Carol vibe, this is and you dig Halloween, this is an excellent book to read. It's like 180 one pages or something like that, and it's a quick 181 pages. I read a lot, but I wouldn't be considered a fast reader. A little dyslexic, and yeah, uh, I know tons of people who read faster, and then they still retain and everything like that. So I'm not a super fast reader. I do read a lot, and this didn't really take me that long. I mean, I got the last 60 pages done in less than an hour. Um, so I'm sure a lot of you can probably knock this out in like an afternoon. something along those lines. I mean, you can, if you want to just sit down and read something in a day and it's kind of fun and you like some of those things, that Christmas Carol, sort of Stand By Me, Goonies, Neil Gaiman-y kind of thing with that. If those tick any boxes or anything like that, you got a day you just want to sit and reading. Ray Bradbury's Halloween Tree, highly, highly recommended. Really just sort of started it and very quickly just really got into it, and it was fun. And so much that I literally just started talking about this for 10, 12 minutes right after reading it. Right, buddy? It's Sleepy Pog. He was with me the whole time. Look at that little, you could see it. Oh, he's got his belly. I was reading a little bit to him because I actually kind of enjoyed reading parts of it out loud, which might be something I do on here for like autumn or something like that. I might read it to the class at work too. You know, we do like bibliotherapy stuff, and one of my partners at work is a big Christmas Carol guy and everything, so this might kind of like lead up into it almost, but for Halloween, which is my favorite. But again, Halloween Tree, Ray Bradbury. If you haven't read it already, quick read, good read, a lot of cool stuff, and was fun. So yeah, thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, share, all that good YouTubey stuff, and talk at you later.